Hello, hello, and welcome to the DecentraWise Podcast. My name is Pedro.
And I'm Miguel, and you just joined us in our mission to decentralize the world wisely.
Wisely, very important. That's why we are here. And grab your drink, don't forget, and sit down and relax because we will talk about very cool stuff today. Right, Miguel?
Yeah, well, we talk about really cool stuff every time. But today we are going to talk about governance and governance models. Yeah, this is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. So, um, in the meantime, don't forget the buttons that you have down there somewhere. There.
What buttons? Please explain.
There are
What
some
buttons are you
buttons
talking about?
there that you can use to
Oh, you
interact
are
with us.
talking about the subscribe button and the like button. Oh, those
No,
buttons.
not the
Yes,
subscribe
please.
button. Don't press the subscribe button. We have 69 subscribers.
This is crazy.
It's the
I
perfect
don't
number.
like.
I don't want more.
I was going to say that it's too many people following us, but yeah.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, please keep subscribing. If you like the 69, I would go for 169 next time. So
Yes.
yeah,
And congratulations to the 69th subscriber. That's powerful, man.
crazy guy,
Powerful.
crazy guy.
And yeah, this is our 20th episode. Man, 20 weeks. My God. Time flies.
Oh yeah,
Anyway, no, it's not 20 weeks because we did some weeks like every other day or something like that because of the hackathon. But yeah, it's
but
it seems that
we already have.
yesterday we
This is the
started
20th.
yesterday and it's already
Yeah, but it's
another
the 20th
year,
episode.
20 episodes and all that. Just imagine when it's 200 episodes, man. This is, and time flies. It's really, anyway. So jumping to our theme of today, governance models in decentralized systems. So there are a lot of ways for us to govern a decentralized system, right? And the first one was first used by Bitcoin, right? And
Yeah,
Bitcoin
since it
is
was
a
the first one. Yeah,
Bitcoin is a form of a decentralized autonomous organization, right? And it's more autonomous because there is not much governance, right? That's the beauty of it. So in Bitcoin, the governance system that it uses is just upgrade the code by miners or not. It's an easy one. Miners decide if a certain change makes sense for the network or not, right? And that's it. So there are other things that then came into usage, but they don't have to. It's just a question of simplifying the the cycle of releases of Bitcoin Bitcoin Core, which is people. There are several projects all the time, and then there are places where people can show their support for certain uh, feature or others. And then when they package, when they see the scores, they decide what to do first. So that's a good thing, but that's not governance. The actual governance occurs when the code is finished, tested, working, tested on testnet, and proposed to the main chain as a hard fork, and or as a soft fork. That depends if it's a change in the consensus or not. And then the miners decide, right?
Yeah. So who takes the decision in Bitcoin?
The miners
Yeah. So
or the
the
mining
miners just
pools.
decide.
The
But
mining pools,
yeah,
to be
right.
correct.
Yeah. So the thing there is, the rest of the community has very little to say about it, right? So if you
Yeah.
have a node, you have nothing to say about it.
Nope.
Yep.
My node is
Well,
happily
they do.
receiving
Running the
blocks.
software that other miners agreed on.
Yeah. My node receives blocks, validates them, and stores them. And it's there validating.
Is your node happy? I bet
I'm
it is.
sure he is, because
Is
uh, that's the only way
is
to be in this space.
is there a way in Bitcoin that such upgrades go wrong? Like if there is a split decision, like let me see if I can find. Well, if the miners don't all of them agree on changing on upgrading the software, how does it behave?
Well, it depends. Either they that depends on the impact of the changes to the protocol. But if it's a consensus change, then it will probably, if they don't agree, two chains will fork, right? The ones that didn't agree stay on this fork, and the new guys that decided continue on this. And then
Yeah,
that's what happened.
that's a weird case, right? Because you will have two
Yeah.
bitcoins.
Uh, that's why we have Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, right?
Yeah, well,
They
I
didn't
wanted to
agree on
bring.
the size of blocks,
Yeah, I wanted to
and
bring
that
that
is
up
stupid.
because
Uh, because I really think that it shouldn't be that rigid. I think the protocol it could be more flexible on those points.
But what I wanted to bring is one of the branches had to change their name, right?
Yeah, of
So
course.
it's a different token. It
But
behaves
don't
differently. It has
forget,
a different price.
there is one very important thing. We didn't know which fork would be the Bitcoin at the time of the fork,
Yes.
and later the global community of holders, decided to value one fork in detriment of the other. We, as holders of Bitcoin, we decided to continue calling Bitcoin to our Bitcoin fork, and the other fork had to change their name uh, to not confuse people.
How
So
big was the community? percentage wise, if we're talking who agreed on Bitcoin Cash and who agreed on the current Bitcoin?
I don't recall. I don't know. But I think there was more support for smaller smaller blocks and SegWit. But it was not that drastic. It
Yes.
was not. It was not a big difference. There was some, but the Bitcoin Cash supporters were somehow not that apart from the main fork supporters. So that's why it was a huge fight, right? Because
Yeah,
usually
I recall that. Yeah.
usually things just are decided before reaching that state. But at that time, there was the developer community was broken in two, right? The ones
Yeah.
that supported bigger blocks and didn't support SegWit, and the ones that supported SegWit and not enlarging the block size. And I think it would be perfectly possible to decide that in a more peaceful way, I think. But people
Yeah, with
just
less
get
struggle for sure.
excited, and it was 2017. It was a bull run, and everyone was in complete mania, and so on. And yeah, it's people just get overexcited about their vision of things, and yeah, humans do human, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think after Bitcoin, we can go to the next step, which is talking about.
I'm not going anywhere. I
Nah,
am doing a live stream.
no, don't
Come on.
move, don't move, because
Ah,
if you move too
okay.
much, you will stay out of camera.
Okay.
Uh, so I think we should talk a little bit about the other side, which is when there is some decisions to make, and when you have some changes or updates or even configurations to make on the blockchain, and there should be some people deciding on that. So I think the first obvious step is to talk about DAOs, or Decentralized Autonomous Organizations.
Hmm.
So these are groups of people that were there was a consensus of
There was those
putting
are
them
communities.
there, deciding, yeah,
Yeah.
making the decisions for the blockchain. How does that work?
So communities have existed since forever, right? It's people just agree in they have some common ground, and they organize themselves around some something, right?
Yeah.
There are communities of musicians, communities of actors, communities of this and that, right? Uh, Usually, those communities are organized by an entity, right? It's
Mhm.
like an association or any other form of incorporation. but in a softer manner, like non-profit or stuff like that. So
Mhm.
when they have such a validation from the government, they can do things like uh, organize events, do this and that, and so on. And there is uh, there is merit on that, right? But usually also because humans do human, as as we as I usually say, uh, there are abuses usually, and people just become greedy and they just use the funds that were supposed to do something for the community to buy cars or to buy houses or stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
It's
for
not the
private
first
stuff,
time
and it
for
won't be the last. Yes.
yachts and stuff like that. So um, that's one problem of normal organizations, right? When you have few people deciding, or even one people deciding what to do with a bunch of money, then there is a problem. So,
That is
what blockchain uh, brought to the table is exactly a way to guarantee that it's not only one person that decides. It should be either the entire community by voting or the a set of trustees or delegates or whatever we want to call them that have the power to vote. And yeah, that's the case of Bitcoin. Going back to Bitcoin as the first DAO, uh, the delegates or the those committee guys are the miners. So they decide if they want to do the upgrade or not, or if they want to stay, they stay. They fork the chain, and so on. That's the only decision that there's to take, right? In the case of Bitcoin, but in the other DAOs that appeared after, there are a lot of decisions. So um, they usually have a treasury. In that treasury, can pay things, and usually the way things work is uh, they propose a transaction to to the voters, to the entire community. The entire community votes on that transaction if they approve it or not, and if it gets approved, it's executed. So that is one form of governance in DAOs, which is on-chain governance, right?
Mhm.
And there is also the possibility to do off-chain governance, right? And that is doing all the voting off-chain instead of on-chain. You can vote by signing a message with your wallet and not doing a transaction. It's cheaper, right? So if you want to see one form of off-chain governance that is very common, is you can check the what's the name of that? I will remember it. It's just a um, snapshot, I think.
I don't know.
Let me check. Snapshot. snapshot.org. If it's a yellow website, a yellow logo, yeah, that's where governance for Uniswap, PancakeSwap, Optimism, Gitcoin, everything, Aave, everything appears in this snapshot. I can let me check
What's
if
the
I.
difference and what's the good
Oh,
the good part of
I
that?
don't have. I don't. Let me just try to share my screen so that we can um, see the website. You see, snapshot. There are a lot of protocols here. So when you select this protocol, for instance, and there is a proposal that they sent, you can vote off chain and sign with your wallet, and they get a snapshot on that. That's why the name. They get a snapshot of your voting power by the timestamp on chain. So uh, they guarantee that you vote with your power on chain by using a snapshot of all the account balances uh, at the time of voting, right?
But that requires that everybody votes.
Mm. That depends. You can have the rules you design your community to use. It's up to you.
So, but what's the main interest of having voting off chain instead of on chain?
Voting on chain, it's always better because there's no way you can cheat, right? You need to have X tokens, and if the of course if the governance system is well designed, you should to be well designed. It should avoid like me buying a million tokens, voting today and selling it tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of it. So that's why we have staking mechanisms and cooldown periods and all those craziness things. They have a reasoning behind, and since humans do human, we need to address those things because if there is a way that you can cheat a system, I don't doubt that there will be someone that will start cheating, and then everybody will start cheating. That's the way it
Yeah.
works.
Well, of course. Yeah.
That's the way that's the way things happen naturally in human societies. So you better do things that cannot be cheated. Otherwise, the common will be cheating.
Yeah.
Very soon, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That is correct. So the only thing that you can do is to have your incentives not to cheat and penalization
disincentives
for the ones,
for cheating.
for those who cheat.
Yeah.
So it's the only way to do it, but it's not easy, of course, to design.
That's why token economics is one of the cool things in this space, right? And
Yeah, it is.
and usually it's not just having incentives; it's not allowing certain actions, right?
Yeah, but
Because, for instance,
the incentive engines should be more like, well, it's allowed within certain parameters, but you don't know exactly what those parameters are, and it should be regulated by the community. So it's in that space.
but but it's completely useless if you design a system uh, to be used in a way, but don't enforce it. Because if you don't enforce it, uh, sooner rather than later, it will not be used or not be done like that, right? And you can see royalties on NFTs, for instance. Since they are not enforced, they started being paid when everyone was rich 3 years ago, and today they don't pay royalties because everybody's poor, right? And
Yep.
if things are not enforced, they are not rules. That's
Yeah, well, the incentive part and the incentive engines are more like in the space of you want this. For instance, let's have an example. You want to stake as much time as possible, but you cannot disallow on staking. So you can have your incentive system to give you some bonus to have the token staked. The more that you have it staked, then the more rewards and the more yield you'll have. So this is more in that spectrum, that you cannot create a barrier that, while you cannot take the money out, so you cannot enforce that rule, but you want people to keep the token staked. So
there
it's
are
more
the two
on
things.
that spectrum.
Both are viable. You need to have both. Actually, you need to have rules, and you need to have
Exactly.
incentives,
Incentives.
right?
Yeah.
And incentives are things that people can decide to choose which.
Yeah.
Rules are things that are enforced, and there is no way to do them wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Exactly.
Because if you imagine Bitcoin having balances in the accounts, Bitcoin doesn't have balances in the accounts, but let's imagine, right? Bitcoin uses a different mechanism. We can talk about it in another episode. But imagine that balances in accounts in a cryptocurrency, and if you naively did a withdraw function or a send function that would um, incentivize you to send less than your balance, and incentivize you to send more than your balance, shit would happen.
Yeah. Well, that is something that you really have to restrict, and
There are
so
things
that
that you
has to be
cannot
rule.
incentivize or disincentivize,
Yeah.
and that's one use case for a rule, right? And the rule needs to be enforced, otherwise it's not a rule, right? That's it. And it's not a question of authority, it's a question of fairness and trustless systems, right? Trustless systems, to be trustless, they don't need to trust anyone, not even the ones that are doing the things, right?
Yeah, of course.
So that's the thing.
Yeah, well, if I see this like a game. So if you are playing the Bitcoin game, you have that set of rules. If you are playing the Ethereum game, you have another set of rules. If you are playing some other blockchain game, you have some other set of rules. And those set
Yeah.
of rules and incentives, of course,
Yeah,
It's what creates the dynamic of the game.
yeah.
So at least it's
It's
how I see it.
it's exactly that. This is game theory. All of this is game theory,
Yeah.
right? Uh, that's what we do. We play all day. That's it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit of, because this is we hear these terms quite a lot, which are proof of whatever it is. So I think we can start for the proof of work, which, as I can see, it was the first governance style that came up.
Pro- proof of work is not a governance thing. Is proof of work is a consensus mechanism. It's different. Uh, it's a form of governance, but it's a consensus mechanism to reach a common truth between the
Yeah.
nodes, right?
Not just that. So you can use that for making decisions, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we can, but usually the proof of something is used more to reach consensus. Uh, and in this case, proof of work reaches that consensus by uh, accepting the okay, we have some problems with sound.
Yeah, it seems so.
Okay, sorry guys if there is some problem in the connection. Usually it doesn't. Let's hope it goes away. That should be something on the internet or something. So proof of work is used to reach consensus of the next block, right?
Mhm.
So anyone needs to find uh, the hash that covers the difficulty uh, of the network at that time, which is based on the hash power of the network. And if the hash power, if the difficulty is achieved, then uh, the block can be proposed to the network, and the rest of the nodes in the network will validate that it's a valid block with a valid hash and accept it or reject it. And that's a way of reaching consensus, right?
Mhm.
For the next transactions in the network.
Yeah. Uh, the next one that I would like to talk about would be proof of stake, which is,
Mhm.
I think it's the most used consensus mechanism right now. Uh, so how does that work?
And the proof of stake mechanism is it's the stake that is validating the next block that matters. So if there is enough quorum of the total stake of the system, then the block is valid. Otherwise, the block is not valid yet. It could be in the future, but not yet. So usually is that. So that style of governance is the governance of the consensus between the nodes in the network. and it's done
But
automatically.
that requires that I have some token staked in order to have like a voting power for the decision of the
Yeah,
block.
that depends on the network. There are plenty of use cases. Usually, for instance, in strictly POS chains like Ethereum, there is a minimum stake for you to be a validator, right? And you can validate blocks if you have at least 32 ETH staked, which is a bunch of money at this time, and it will only get worse, unfortunately. So it's a bunch. You have to have a bunch of money to be counted as a decision maker in the next block, right?
Yeah.
And your node, when you have a running node, your node will use that stake that you have to have staked to run it and decide, validate the block. If it's a valid block, your node signs it, and when there is enough stake backing up one block, it's valid, right?
Yeah, and here is where I try to pull this kind of consensus to the governance part. So when we're talking about decision making, you can also apply this kind of decision making. For instance, you can have a decision taken care by proof of stake. So if you have a community, you can formulate a request, and by stake, that decision is made by being applied or not.
I wouldn't call it a proof of stake decision. I would call it a stake weighted decision. Usually, it's proof of something is used like in a consensus way, and for decision making or for voting, usually you use like a weighting mechanism. So in that case, that's a classic
What would be
weighted
different?
voting.
What would be the difference?
It's because one is automatic, and the other one is humans doing human things like voting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for me, that's the difference for the governance part. So
Yeah,
but it's
but
all consensus, and the algorithm is the same.
yeah, it's very similar. The only thing is that for the consensus part, there are other requisites. It's not just a voting mechanism. There are other problems that need to be addressed for having a consensus working, and there are other things that you need to use to guarantee that you have the least forks possible, like the Byzantine fault tolerance and stuff like that. But and in the voting mechanisms, they are not needed, right? They are just votes in vote counting and stake weighting. That's why I like to differentiate
Yeah,
both.
well, I mean that's a way to automate stuff, right? And the difference is one is automated and the other is not.
Yeah, and the requisites that one has that are not needed on the other one, because in a
Yeah,
simple
no, but
both weighted,
the thing,
it's
yeah, but
it's a
the
simple thing.
decision making is if you reach a threshold of stake, uh, the decision is accepted or not.
Hmm.
So and that's where I'm getting it to, because uh, it's like you're having a democracy. Democracy is it is what it is. It's the dictatorship of the majority, right? If you have 51%, then it's accepted. If you don't, it's not. And it doesn't matter if it's automated or not. So this is what I'm getting into. It's the decision making, and how the decision is done, because you can have other forms like DPoS, and that's where I'm going to jump next. But you have other mechanisms of taking decisions. Well, DPoS, it's kind of similar, but it has some differences. So the consensus is done in a different way, but it's applied as a decision, like accepting a block or not, or
Hmm.
accepting a change or not. And how this is done, it's where I want to get into.
Yeah, in the POS, the only difference is that D in the beginning,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it's a lot
The
of
rest is the
it's a
same.
huge
It's
it's a huge
POS.
difference.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
it's
it's a huge difference. Yeah.
uh, the thing is, in the POS you can delegate. That's so you can delegate your voting power to a validator, and that's it, right?
Yeah, so you are taking only a single decision there. You are deciding to give your power to somebody else, and that somebody else will take the decisions for you.
Yeah,
It's like you are voting on a on a party for your government, and they will take the decisions for you.
yeah,
So they just gather a big slice of the steak, so that they have enough power to take decisions.
yeah. Usually it's like that.
Yeah.
So that is very common in chains today, like crypto Kronos chain in crypto.com as uh, delegation system. Um, the what's the name of it? The Atom, which is Cosmos chain,
Mhm.
as also that kind of delegation system.
Yeah.
There are a lot of chains, but we were pioneers using DPoS back in 2016, right? Um, we were using BitShares and Steam. Both
Yeah.
both chains were. BitShares was the first DPoS chain, as far as I know, uh, and then Steam, and then and then EOSIO, and so on and so forth. So that those chains back in the day were very cool, because uh, even today, uh, as a matter of fact,
Yeah.
the
Those,
functionality is still state of the art, as
yeah.
far as I know.
Yeah. Well, it is. It is.
They had a lot
And
of
this.
problems. Don't get me wrong, and I felt them.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that's why they're not mainstream anymore.
yeah, because I think that the problems they had were not technological at all.
Yeah.
It
Yeah. It
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 was
was governance.
governance problems, or
Exactly.
distribution problems, or incentivization problems, because uh, usually in communities it's very easy that a bunch of people get like in a silo, right? They just, this is
Well, they
our
we were
kingdom.
talking we were talking about the game rules, and people tend to kind of exploit the game rules, or because when people design those blockchains, they have something in mind, right? And they try to create the rules to represent the best way possible what they have in mind. And when people don't understand that well, or they don't care about what the creator had in mind, they tend to abuse those rules, and it's actually what happens. They just I don't want to call it abuse, because it's, if those rules were done like that, they are not abusing it. You cannot abuse the rules in blockchain, but maybe they should be defined slightly differently in order not to have.
It's always, a question of what you want to do with your protocol, or with your uh, whatever, right? um, and I don't I completely understand why things were done that way at that time, because it was very early days. People didn't know um, what would come up, right? I am pretty
Yeah,
sure that
exactly.
when we are even today, when we launch a new chain, we don't know if we will have people joining or not.
Hmm.
Either we have a big community already because we were developing at open, and gathering momentum and all that, and then we have a big community, and we know that there will be people uh, joining in the early days, or we don't know if we were building things before launch, not in the open because we don't need, or because we don't have a following, or whatever, then we don't know,
Yeah.
right? And when we launch, even having a community, uh, we don't know how the community will behave in the future, because when there is no economic incentive, people do one thing or act one way, and when there is a bunch of money involved, people change, right? And
Yeah,
become
but I don't think it's
more
only that.
greedy, and more uh,
I don't
uh,
think it's just that. If
but it
uh,
is a big
Yeah, it's
chunk of
also
it.
that. But yeah, it's also that. But not only. What I think is, if you don't set any rules, people tend to act freely within the whole spectrum of the functionality of the community, and
Hmm.
that goes from 0 to 100, right? If you start setting the rules, you start to restrict that spectrum, and people will have to behave between that spectrum. But then again, this is a very delicate balance, because if you start creating too many rules,
Yeah,
nobody wants to be there because it's too restrictive. So yeah, it's a very delicate balance for sure.
yeah. And also at that time, projects were launched like very very people who would join, and they wouldn't have any valuation at all, and then when they were even today, it's the same thing. uh, when they got to be listed on Binance, then everything is multiplied by 100, right? And
Yeah.
people that had accumulated a million tokens that were worth $5 or 5 cents become millionaires,
Yeah.
and that happened uh, to many people, and that's the beauty of this space. And people become very protective of that, of their kingdom, right? They
Right.
want to keep more, and that's bad, because uh, I think that this space, and that was the lesson that I learned, is that we need to share to succeed in projects in blockchain. Uh, if I build my blockchain with my token and I hold a gazillion tokens, and I invite you to my chain and I give you five, uh, and um, what is your incentive to be here, right? Uh, doesn't make much sense, right? So sharing is enlarging a community. If you just keep things to yourself, the network value disappears naturally, because people there is a balance between the givers and the takers, right? And if you just take, and the others give, uh, at some point in time, the givers will uh, not give anymore, because doesn't make sense, right? To give and don't take anything, or just take too little,
Yeah.
and you
Do you
take it
think that
all.
do you think
So
that should be enforced or that should be freewheeling?
I think that it's a question. It's a question of initial distribution and continuous distribution of
Yeah,
tokens.
but you can have the development of the during the development of the blockchain, after distribution, that the tokens will concentrate in a group of people. We usually call them whales. So how do you think that uh, that distribution should be enforced or freewheeling?
Uh, there's no way we can control that. So
Yeah.
the only thing that matters in the distribution is time, uh, and that's why Bitcoin took 100 years or 100 something years to distribute all the tokens, right?
Hmm.
So uh, that's the distribution mechanism. You know that on the first years, big the early adopters will be whales. That's natural. There's no way you can avoid that, because and it's fair, because they were early. That's usually a
Yep.
benefit in any thing that we do, right?
Hmm.
So uh, that's natural. But then, with the progression of the distribution, things become more even, right? And that's the problem on these projects was the distribution phase. It was too short, and in the case of Steam, they call it the ninja mine, because Steam had a period where there was a mining algorithm for them to build blocks for the block producers to build blocks, and there was only a few guys doing that. But Dan Larimer, what he said is, uh, why didn't they join more? And
Yeah.
yeah, and there's another thing behind that, which is the laws for ICOs, or the lack of laws for ICOs. If you want to create funding for a project, and you cannot sell your tokens, otherwise you will have a bunch of problems in the future. One way that you have is to distribute your tokens um, to a small community, and then use that community um, to create the initial capital for the project, right? And that's what happened in those cases. That initial distribution was just for a few, so that they can remain in control of the project and generate enough cash to start the operations and build a team to maintain the thing and stuff like that. So, but then years passed. Those were the same guys controlling the network, and
Yeah.
people just got annoyed by that, because why should I be generating value for them to take it, and I keep this and they keep that,
Yeah.
right? People need to let go. That's in initial period is good, but then they start enlarging the community, distributing more tokens to the community, and not accumulate that much, because it's very easy in this space to do that. Because if you join any project, you make a bunch of tokens that are worthless, and then they become something. If you sell just a small portion of your stake, you get a bunch of money, you are very happy, and you keep the other tokens just to control. Why? Sell them all. Keep a small bunch. Your project gained a life of its own already.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
should you
Well,
be? Why should you
because people
be
don't trust
the controller? It
people
doesn't
don't trust
matter.
in what they do, right? It's the same as when deploying smart contracts. That's why people deploy upgradable contracts usually. It's because they
Yeah,
don't trust what they're doing, and they don't trust the rules they set. So they don't let go because they want to change things in the future.
I think
And
that people.
yeah, that's kind of wrong in this space, right? It's not like you have a company and you need to steer it. No, you just create your community, and your community is steering it.
Yeah,
It's a different way of seeing things.
yeah. That's why I laugh when I see a decentralized project with the CEO and the CTO
Yeah.
and all those things. Doesn't make sense. This
Yeah,
is
well, I think it kind of makes sense when you are developing the project and in the initial state, but then they should just push it and let go.
just don't call it CTO or CEO. It's not a company,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
community. It's a people that gather around a certain subject and decided to do things.
yeah. But
And
CTO, it's community technical officer.
yeah, there's no C suit stuff here.
Yeah, well, the C is for community, right? It just changed the value of the C,
Yeah,
right? It's not chief. You are not a chief. You are a community something.
and that is, in my way, the most important problem in this governance style. It's that the initial distribution was not diluted. Just to summarize,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
well,
and I think that's the way projects have a certain failure. If you don't dilute your initial stake, if you want to remain in control of your own project, that's a recipe for disaster. Just let go. Let the community
yeah,
decide if they want you to be there or not,
yeah. And the thing is, when you create a
and
project,
go to
is
the
try,
Bahamas and
try
have
to
some fun.
distribute as much as possible to as much people as possible, because when you have uh, the more people you have holding tokens, the more people you have making the decisions, and that's how you avoid having those kind of decisions only made by a very few people.
Yeah,
Uh,
and there is a
and,
lot
and,
less
and that is
ego
very
in the
and
decision.
yeah, but, and what that generates is that they the less people you have, then the less good decisions you will make for the community.
Yeah, and if you let the ego control your community, or in attempting to control your community, uh, you are doomed. Uh, a community should be a community-driven thing. It's not up to your ego to decide whatever, right?
Yeah,
And usually the projects fail because of that, because if there is too little distribution in power, and people start using their egos and their influences to do this and do that and so on, then it becomes an oligarchy, is not a community, right?
yeah. Well, you can call it whatever. It's just when you have very few people making decisions for everybody, they're usually not good decision.
Yeah,
Those guys are not good decision makers. If they don't listen, at least if they don't listen to the community, of course, you can have that, but and have them listening to the community. It can be another incentive, right? Um, but usually that doesn't happen. And what we've seen is that just goes wrong and goes very wrong to the community. Uh,
what
so
i
yeah,
would what I would like to understand, if there is a way to solve that, is if there was any way to enforce uh, whales to dilute with time.
yeah. I was saying that. How do you see that? Because I don't see an
I don't
easy way
know.
to do that. That's why I was asking you. Do you see that being enforced or freewheeling?
Yeah,
Because I think there's a way to do it freewheeling if you create the right incentives. And
that's
but the
the
incentives
that's
cannot be tokens, right? You cannot have tokens as incentives.
but one thing that I would like to clear. It's very important in during the development of a project, uh, for the ones that have the vision to stay in power. So I completely agree with being whales while developing. Completely agree with that, because there's no way I will allow uh, one project that I'm launching to gain a life of its own before it's done, right? It's my idea. It's my project. I don't give
Yeah,
a
of
fuck.
course.
Either
Yeah.
you join me because of me and my project, or you don't even do your own shit, right? That's it. It's fair.
No, that makes total sense.
That's
But
that's
after
the
you
beauty of
gather,
decentralized
but
systems.
that,
You
but
are in
that's when you
control
don't
of
have a
your own
community.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's when you don't have a community, and after you have a community, the community should be deciding for what's best for the community.
But the
And
community should only start deciding when the project
after it's
is
done, when you drop it,
finished.
that's why I
Having
was saying
communities,
you can have a lot of
that's
tokens, and then you need to release them. Yeah,
that's one thing. Communities are the worst decision makers for project development.
yeah.
You get a bunch of people deciding a
No,
release,
they want
and
everything,
you
of
will
course.
never release.
They will want everything. But
Yeah.
that it is what
So
it is. You cannot
so
have that.
that is an
What you can
exception.
have is create the project, uh, put it running, launch it, and then the community that gathers around is the community that identifies with the project.
Yeah.
So that's the community you want to take care of, and that's the community you want taking care of the project.
Yeah.
So it's a
When the
reciprocal.
project is done and smoke tested and everything is working correctly, I will be happy to step down
Yeah,
and let the community take it over, and they can consult
yeah,
me whenever they want, uh,
yeah,
and that's it. And actually, that's what Dan Larimer did in most of his projects. He developed them. He um, let the projects take over, and then the oligarchs stepped in and never
yeah.
left. And
No,
if we find a
I think,
solution for that,
yeah,
that
I
would
think
be
we're
amazing.
lacking an incentive to dilute. Yeah,
Like,
we are definitely missing that incentive.
they should pay taxes.
Yeah, that's enforcing. I'm I'm not up to that.
Me
And I
neither.
think,
But
yeah,
that's why
and
it's
I think
difficult.
people don't see this because we've been paying taxes all our lives, right? But when people didn't, and when people have enough money, they start distributing like within their communities, and that's what you see in richer countries. They just go to the community, to the community church, and they help other people, free willing. It's not like they're forced, like paying taxes. They're free
Yeah.
willing doing that, and that's how it should be done. But they have this. They know that they are helping somebody because it's their neighbor. It's somebody that is part of their community. So there is something. There should be something like this here in blockchain that I don't see. People just see numbers here,
Yeah. It's a question of
and
values.
that it's
And
quite strange. And that's why I was saying, if you want to reward people for doing for diluting their tokens, you cannot give tokens back. It cannot be something like that. Like you are investing in something and you are getting some more tokens back because you would be growing your token
yeah.
pool. So it
No.
cannot be something like that, because if you are going to church and you give some money to the church to help that homeless people that is down the street, you don't get money in return. You get something else. So, and that is something else that is missing here in our communities.
Yeah. I think that the early adopters of this technology uh, were the finance guys or the guys that want to get rich quick, and
Yeah,
so the values uh, were not uh, the right ones to be
Mhm.
um, a giver, right?
Yeah.
Or a charity uh, guy, right? So
Mhm.
I think that's when this space becomes more broad and more people join, I think the values will be different. And that's why I, on my projects, uh, always think what my community will be. I don't want investors in my projects. Go put your money. I can't say it's here. Um, I don't want investors any in any form. I just want people with the right values. That's it. I'm not sure if I will uh, be correct, but I really think that it's a question of values. If you have the right values, if your community has the right values, I think it will act as a community and not as an investor.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
to
It's something that.
launch my first project actually very soon, but
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see how it happens. But I really think that that's the problem. Everyone in this space is still very oriented to money and growing stacks and grabbing, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
when people realize that there's much more than bags, uh, maybe uh, the outcome uh, differs, right?
Yeah, well, it's like I was saying, we need the right incentives there, and but I don't know how to reproduce this kind of incentive of free willing distribution on the blockchain. It's something
It
that
has
I
to
don't know
not
how.
be enforced by taxes. It will
Yeah,
have to be a question of pride, a question
it's not a question of pride.
of not pride. It's a question of
Yeah,
doing
it's
the right
different.
thing,
Yes,
doing the
exactly.
right thing, and
Yes,
helping other people
yeah,
and
yeah,
feeling good
and
about it.
exactly.
That's why
But
uh,
how do we?
you cannot
Because
enforce that.
that happens. Yeah, because that happens free willing,
Yeah,
and that's the weird thing, right?
that's why I think it's a question of values. If you bring
Yeah.
a community of investors, you will not have it. If you bring a community of people that are aligned to to a certain outcome, you might have it. I'm not sure
Yeah.
because people get greedy and usually values lag. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think when people don't, well, I'm talking about normal people. When they don't have money, uh, they don't have anything to give. Uh, but when you go to richer people, and of course, there's everything, all sorts of people. But when people have enough, they start giving, and that's what you had before taxes. People would just give
Yeah,
when they had enough. It's like
but
everything in life. When you have enough, you can freely give, and it
it's
doesn't
not
matter
like
for you.
that because even rich people they do charity for tax purposes as well. So there is an incentive, right? It- uh, it's not just that. I am sure that a small minority would still do it if there was no tax benefits, but
I don't think it's a minority. Yeah,
majority would be because of that.
Yeah, I don't think that's the minority. I think people stopped giving because of taxes, because it's now the government's responsibility to do it.
And there is a different thing as well. Either you are uh, a, a millionaire by birth, or you are a millionaire that was self-made in two ways. Uh, One way is you win the lottery or something else, or you just exploited a bunch of people. And the other is you are hardworking, did the right thing, and after a bunch of years, you became wealthy. And uh, those are completely different perspectives of the world, right? Uh, the guy that got it instantly will be much greedy, much more greedy, and will lose it
Yeah,
all much faster than the other
yeah.
guys,
Usually,
right?
those are the guys that blow up the whole.
They blow up like even higher than the dot-com bubble.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
just
they
blow up
boom.
the money, the family
Yeah,
money, in like in one generation. And those,
the guy that
I think
worked
those guys are
hard,
greedy. Yeah,
the
just
guy that
yeah.
worked
Let me
hard. Yeah, yeah.
try to explain the difference on that, because that guy doesn't know how to make money, and the guy that does know how to make money does is he doesn't worry to have less because he knows how to make more. The other guy that just inherited some money doesn't know how to make money, so he will be greedy because that's the only way he can not lose everything in
That depends.
faster, right?
That depends. Usually, financial literacy. Um, I'm not talking about just a small stupid guy that inherited money. I'm talking about rich families that were rich all the time, and they were born rich, and they were uh, taught how to be rich and how to
Mhm.
uh, have wealth and take care of it, right? Because
Mhm.
being wealthy, it's a question of taking care of your wealth. It's not a question uh, of making money,
It's not
right?
only that. It's also well, it's how to save money. It's how to produce money,
And how to
because those guys
continue
know how to make. Yeah, those
wealthy.
guys know how to make money
The
because they
trick,
learn. It's
Miguel,
not like us. Nobody taught us how to make money, right? You don't have economy at
Miguel,
school.
the question is not how to make money. Everyone knows how to make money more
No,
or
they don't.
less. Yeah.
No, they don't.
The question is how much money you keep. That's the question. The question is how do you stay with your wealth instead of having to make more money to have more income, right? Seems that Miguel got
Yeah,
frozen by my phrase. Are you there, Stasi? Hello, Miguel is lagging a bit. Question. I think it's a problem with his connection. Let's see if he recovers. I don't think so. Anyway, I think this was already being a rant here about wealth. But yeah, usually that's the problem. The difference between being poor and being uh, wealthy is knowing how to keep your wealth, uh, and that is the question. So, guys, enjoy. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode. Cheers. Bye-bye.